Good evening and welcome to Survival Kit. I'm Sharon Davis.
And I'm Jim Peck. Well, it's often called the longest and most difficult task we will ever face.
That it, of course, is raising a child. And the trying times can begin the instant you leave the hospital with a newborn. In tonight's program, we'll look at how to baby-proof your home and reduce the stress of parenthood.
But first, let's explore those all-important health issues. A little later on, by the way, I'll be joined by a pediatrician to discuss childhood immunizations. But first, is your baby's cough simply that, a cough? Or is it a symptom of something more serious? And how does a new parent tell the difference? Producer Kathy Anderson, a mom herself, has some helpful advice.
No, baby.
Surprise! You've read all the books, talked with family and friends, and you're ready to be a new parent. Not.
The first time he spit up a whole stomach, which was, you thought he was going to die or something like that, he immediately called, his family. They had just had, his cousin had just had baby. We're like, why did Ryan do that? Because he didn't do it till he was about probably a week and a half old, and then we're like, should we feed him again? We completely panicked.
Shannon and Patrick Rice are the proud parents of 2-month-old Ryan. He's healthy, developing and growing right on schedule. But for his mom and dad, being a parent is not easy.
When the baby's born and, they hand you your baby and you go home, and we'd look at each other and be like, do you think he's hungry? Do you think he needs this? And I don't know. So it's funny. I wish he could tell us. But I guess that's our job to figure it out.
But you can kind of tell now, like the different ways that he cries, you can tell whether he's hungry or if something's like really wrong, you can tell if he's not feeling well or if he has a stomach ache or something like that. He cries differently. It takes a long time to get used to that, though. I think we're still not quite used to it, but it gets better a little bit.
Do they get any formula at all, or pretty much primarily?
Just out.
Okay, good. So they
Dr. Howard Gollup is a pediatrician who is a parent who understands the worries of first-time moms and dads.
Even something as basic as crying, all babies kind of have a fussy period in the evening, and it can go on for even a few hours where they're eating more and they're a little bit more fretful. And that's a real normal aspect of baby care. But to a parent who didn't expect this, it's sometimes assumed to be a problem, and just talking about it and reassuring them about it is often all that they are looking for. Questions about frequency of feedings. Babies don't adhere to schedules, and they're quite variable in how well they eat at a particular feeding, how frequently they eat, and how much they eat. And the schedule might be that they might be hungry after an hour and a half sometimes and after 4 hours, and that's okay, that they don't adhere to a clock or to a time schedule.
The doctor has written a book, a parent survival guide, and regularly contributes advice columns to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. He says new parents will learn a great deal about their child in his or her first 6 to 8 months of life.
I usually start with something like Cheerios because they're round, no sharp edges, very uniform, they'll mush easily, and they may gag on them, but they're not going to choke on them.
About feeding. He says breastfeeding is best if possible, if only for the first 2 weeks.
But after that, I actually recommend that they offer them a bottle, maybe once a day, once every other day, in the evening with a little express breast milk, a little formula, even a little water, not for any nutritional reason, but just to know that baby will take a bottle. So if at 2 or 3 months of age they try to do that for the first time because of reasons of returning to work or being on some medication that precludes breastfeeding for a while or whatever reason, that baby won't refuse a bottle, which they often will do if they haven't at least seen one on some sort of semi-regular basis.
Doctors, the media, and the government encourage, if not demand, immunizations for children to prevent diseases such as pertussis, diphtheria, polio, mumps, and measles. But some new parents may worry about side effects.
Like everything in our daily lives, there are risks and benefits that have to be weighed. And there are some slight risks, statistically slight, even though when they occur they're significant, to anything we do, including vaccinations. But the vast majority of the population benefits from it. And when we talk about the benefits of the vaccines exceeding the risks, we're talking about population decisions. that if we didn't vaccinate, we would have much, much, much greater numbers of affected infants with diseases that we have forgotten about.
And while it's natural to be concerned when a baby has a runny nose or cough, Gollup says that's not necessarily a reason to panic.
Colds are the most frequent infectious disease that we see, and ear infections are the most common complication of the common cold. And to some extent, I believe philosophically that common community viral illnesses, garden variety illnesses, are part of wellness. They help us stimulate our immune system to respond to these viruses and these illnesses that we say are self-limited. In other words, your body fights them off by yourself, like colds. Are part of life.
Is he giving you any sleep at night?
Oh, not really.
Well, he's supposed to do that. The babies are
Little fussy.
little fussy, yeah.
Most women are discharged from their hospital within 48 to 72 hours after giving birth, a policy dictated by most health insurance providers. Dissatisfied with that, the Visiting Nurses Association of Wisconsin has teamed up with the Sinai Samaritan Medical Center and Waukesha Memorial Hospital to provide home visits to mothers who deliver at their facilities.
We were very concerned with moms going home so early from the hospital. Typically in the first 24 hours, there's so much that goes on for them, people in and out of their rooms, and just a lot of things happening in the hospital, and there's not a lot of time, uninterrupted time, where you can sit with them and do a lot of teaching. That plus the fact that a lot of times moms and dads just aren't ready to hear a lot about anything in depth as far as bathing their baby, temperature taking. They'd like to inspect their baby and hold and cuddle and that kind of thing, but as far as their attention span at that point in time and their ability to take in that information, it just isn't there.
Maggie Gassert's son Cody is 2 weeks old. Within days of his birth, nurse Lori Kadunk came to their home to see how they were doing.
It just helped me feel much better about everything I was doing and that I was doing everything right.
When it comes down to it, doctors and nurses say new parents just have to trust their gut feelings when trying to figure out if something is wrong with their baby. Unfortunately, there are no hard and fast rules.
No, I don't think I'm ready to give any advice yet, other than just try to hang in there.
Well, in that report, we learned that vaccinating your child is vital. But what shots does a child need and when? Jim Peck is joined now by a special guest with all the answers.
Thank you, Sharon. I am indeed. With me tonight to discuss childhood immunizations is Dr. Timothy Shum, a pediatrician with Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. Dr. Shum, we hear periodically that all those basic illnesses are gone and you don't need to immunize your children. True or false?
False. Those diseases are still around, and whooping cough is still, there are thousands of cases of whooping cough every year in the United States, more this year than the last couple of years. There were over 20,000 cases of diphtheria this past year in the former Soviet Union, so these diseases are with us and they can come back very quickly if we stop immunizing.
There was a physician a few years ago, if I remember correctly, his name was Mendelssohn, who had written a book and went around the country on every talk show, I think, imaginable, telling people not to immunize their children. More babies die from the results of the shots than do from the diseases. It always struck me that the question should have been asked, well, isn't that because the diseases are gone because of the amount of shots that people have?
Yes, that's true. I mean, if we stop immunizing pertussis or whooping cough, we know that it's going to be back. It already is. Measles, we had 1,000 cases of measles in 1989 in Milwaukee. Yeah, if we stop immunizing, we'll see a lot more cases, and these are bad diseases. I mean, there are children that are paralyzed with them. Whooping cough leads to children that a certain percentage die from that disease. So, yeah, these are serious diseases, and they will be back. So.
What shots should a newborn get? Kind of run me through the sequence. I bring my baby home, and at some point, that child is going to need to be immunized. What are the first, second, third, etc.? What do I do?
The first shot would be given hopefully in the hospital before they leave, the hepatitis B immunization. Now it's given at birth and then again at 2 months and 6 months of age. The first time that a parent usually brings a child in for their routine shots would be when the child is 2 months old. And at that time they would get a 3-in-1 shot, diphtheria, whooping cough, and tetanus.
Still have that one, huh?
The DPT, it's around, and it's a great immunization. In addition, they would get a polio vaccine, that's the polio drops. They would get their second hepatitis shot, and they would get what's called a Haemophilus vaccine. This is to prevent serious illnesses like bacterial meningitis or spinal meningitis.
You mentioned polio, and that to me is one of the great events that occurred in my lifetime. That I remember the quarantines and the terror. You'd wake up in the morning with a sore throat, and it was awful. And now we never even hear about polio.
Yeah, it's been, they have a global initiative to eradicate it from the face of the earth. You know, smallpox is one of those diseases that has been completely eradicated from Earth, and it was because of vaccinations.
Now, someone told me that there was a vaccine available now against chickenpox. And number one, I didn't think chickenpox was that serious.
Chickenpox is usually a pretty mild disease, although the children are pretty miserable because they're itching a lot. They miss a lot of school from it, and parents miss a lot of work being home with their kids. So usually it's a relatively mild disease. However, there are complications to it. There are some 3,000 or 4,000 children hospitalized every year from complications of chickenpox. We had one just last week at Children's Hospital. So this vaccine is a good one. It's been years in studying and refining, and it's now recommended. However, the supplies can't keep up yet, so people are not using it yet until the supplies are up. So.
By the way, how are we doing in this area or as a nation as far as getting our children immunized?
Actually, the United States isn't nearly as good as some of the other developed countries. Most of the countries in Europe do a better job of immunizing infants than we do. We're pretty good over the first 3 shots that children get in the first year of life, and then after that we start to fall down. Milwaukee is, I think, no better or no worse. We could be better, especially in the inner city. And this huge measles outbreak that we had several years ago, in Milwaukee, the big group that got measles were unimmunized preschoolers. So yes, we can do better.
It's awful when children get something they don't need to get. Now, are immunizations really safe?
For the most part, I think they're very safe. We're talking about giving millions of doses of vaccines. We're not talking about 100 or 200 doses of something. So every year there are, how many millions of doses of oral polio or the DPT. So these are well-tested, well-researched before they're ever brought onto the market. And yes, occasionally you get reactions, but most of those are mild reactions. But the diseases are bad, and the likelihood of reaction is not very great.
In about a half minute, you're a pediatrician. Sharon was kidding you before, but you're the one that gets the calls in the middle of the night. What calls don't you mind getting?
I don't mind getting calls about children who are ill and need to be seen, and parents who are at their wits' end and they want to talk to a pediatrician to give them some advice before something more serious may happen.
Doctor, thank you very much for being with us. If you're a new parent or maybe just thinking about starting a family like some of the folks I know, all of this talk about everything from mumps to measles might sound pretty alarming. Illness is just one of the countless stresses facing parents today, and most of us take on the task without any expertise or training. But as producer Dee Malasinia discovered, several Milwaukee hospitals are now offering a program specifically aimed at helping new moms and dads learn how to cope.
Meet Alexandra Nicole Garcia. She's just 48 hours old. Jeannie Garcia is Alexandra's proud mother.
Are you my little sweetheart? Yes, you are.
Good morning, Jeannie.
Good morning.
I'm Nola.
Hi, Nola.
Congratulations on the birth of your baby.
Thank you.
Like all women who deliver their first child at St. Joseph's Hospital in Milwaukee, Mrs. Garcia is being visited by a staff member of a program called Supporting First-Time Parents. Pam Dahl is the program manager.
The Supporting First-Time Parent program is a parent education and support model currently offered to Milwaukee County residents who deliver their first child at 6 out of the 9 maternity hospitals in the county. The goal or the premise of the program is that all parents can and will do well with their children, some receiving more levels of support or parent education than others. The ultimate goal of the program is to strengthen families in a way that will prevent child abuse and neglect in this community.
While it might seem unusual to address abuse issues just hours after childbirth, research indicates that programs which help new moms and dads focus on their parenting responsibilities are more effective than interventions during family crisis. Supporting first-time parents begins with an invitation to the new mothers and fathers to participate in some or all of the program's free services. Mrs. Garcia has agreed and is being interviewed by social worker Nola Devereaux.
About 80% of the parents that we approach take part in the interview. And the purpose of the interview is to help to define any needs or stresses or concerns in that family's life before they take that baby home. How would you rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 on your knowledge of infant development and baby care?
Probably about a 7.
About a 7, okay. What were some of your recent experiences with children, and where did you receive some of your knowledge or your background with children and childcare?
We took some birthing classes prior to this, and I read a lot of books and magazines.
That's great.
During the interview, families are evaluated for their potential stress level. About half the families are defined as low stress.
The services that we would offer a low-stress family would be the resource guide, which has a ton of different types of information for them to access community resources. We'd also offer them a newsletter that would come out age-paced 1 per month till the baby turns a year old, and make sure that they have our phone number so that they can call us if they have questions.
Devereaux says the other 50% of families interviewed are considered to have medium to high stress potential.
Some of the factors that make a family medium to high stress is probably first off limited support. Either the family is not real supportive or the father of the baby is not supportive. Another factor is the age of the mother. Poor infant and maternal bonding. There would be probably a lack of education in the area of child development or parenting. What would happen with them is that we would also give them the resource guide and the newsletter and access to our phone numbers, but they would be also invited to take part in our home visiting service.
I see that he's trying to walk. Is Nathan walking yet?
He's taking a couple steps.
I see that.
Leah Maxwell is a home visitor for supporting first-time parents. Once a month, she visits Nikki Thorson and her year-old twins, Nathan and Nicholas.
It's like he's trying to build a confidence.
Go get Leah.
Yeah, come here.
Go get Leah.
Show
Come
me
on.
the
Go get Leah. Yes.
There you go. Oh, good boy. So proud of you. What I do with a home visit, I go in the home and see, provide them with information about parenting skills, nutrition, reminding them about immunization shots. I also provide information about infant stimulation and infant massage, providing them information about growth and development, letting them know when the child will be doing what, signs of teething, some signs of walking, or when when they're ready for solid food, or when they're just all sorts of things about, toddlers as they grow up. Oh, yummy. That sounds really yummy.
I also talk about whatever's on their mind. If they're stressed about being a parent, they're interested in being a parent in class, referring them to the nearest family resource center. We can be advocates, just a listening ear for them, just someone to listen to about the stress of being a mom and the changes that are in their life.
Nikki took parenting classes before the birth of her sons and read a lot of books about parenting. But she says being the mother of energetic twins is a stressful job made easier with the help of supporting first-time parents.
It's nice because I don't get out very much, and it's nice to have somebody to come visit me to see how I'm doing and how I'm handling my kids, and it's wonderful.
While it's difficult to measure the success of prevention programs, Pam Dahl believes supporting first-time parents has made a difference.
A report came out last year from Start Smart Milwaukee, which noted a 21% decrease in substantiated cases of child abuse and neglect in children ages birth to 6 for the past 5 years. And I feel very confident that the first-time parent program has had an impact on that decrease.
Dahl says all new moms and dads can benefit from this program because giving birth doesn't necessarily mean you're ready for the most challenging and rewarding job of your life.
I think new parents feel very prepared for the birth of the baby when they walk into labor and delivery, and sometimes, lots of times, when they get baby home, it's a new story. There's different rules that come with having an infant at home, and they may be quite surprised at how unprepared they actually are for the 24-hour job of being a new parent.
I'm just really excited having her in our life now, and I'm anxious and ready to be a mother. And I just can't wait to get her home and be a part of our family.
Thanks to producer Dee Malissinier for that report. Okay, you figured out what shots your new child needs and how to keep from collapsing in a heap the first time there's a crisis in the nursery. But if you think that means your child is now fully protected, think again. Producer Jackie Edwards-Pago reminds new parents that it's equally important to make sure that your child doesn't get into serious trouble right at home.
A new mom puts her baby to bed. Probably her biggest worry is that her child may catch the cold that's going around. But there might be much bigger dangers than germs lurking around the house. That's why baby-proofing a home is so important.
We know that the best time to start baby-proofing is actually before you have your babies. Because a lot of times you don't have time to do it after that. And so as you're pregnant, think about constructing and redesigning your home in a way that it can be safer by doing the cabinet locks and things before they're even born, because then it's set when they're ready for it.
That's a good idea. And I was always taught that get on their level and crawl. See what would be interesting to them. I remember reading that, and before Lauren was born, my first child, I remember crawling, and my husband and I finding things that, boy, that would be interesting to me. So, of course, then you just kind of look at the world in a whole different view or a different way.
Baby-proofing your home does not mean keeping your child from experiencing a normal life. But since the most common injuries, falls, burns, and poisoning, are preventable, baby-proofing means looking out for the little things.
The major thing is around the house is poisoning. Again, those young adults or the young children, the toddlers, once they get to be mobile, poisoning becomes a very strong issue there. An infant or a toddler can get under the bathroom sink or into mom's purse and get at those cosmetics really quickly. And we want to make sure that parents and other caregivers are making sure that information or that material is out of reach for the children. Again, moving chemicals up, putting locks on doors, getting on your hands and knees again, just seeing what your child is going to see at their level, because that's going to be where they're going to see an opportunity of, oh, there's that lamp on that doily, I'll pull the doily because that looks pretty nice, and not realizing that the lamp is going to come with that.
Well, I think it's important to baby-proof your home because injuries in the home to kids under 5 is the most common cause of hospitalization and death. And so it's extremely important to take it seriously.
When you're in the kitchen of your home, there's some simple things you can do to make sure you baby-proof it, child-proof it, keep it safe for everyone involved. We're going to look at some of those things right now.
Think about what you're storing above your oven. If you've got cookies above your oven,
okay,
they're going to they know the cookies are there, and as soon as they get to the climbing age, they're going to climb on this oven and go after the cookies.
Okay, we keep ours in here, and then I have a knob on here so that it twists, so when he gets older, then it just spins. So we keep our cookies in there, but that's a good point. Yes.
Let's talk about these knobs. These are excellent to keep kids out of places they shouldn't be that have doors. They're easy for adults who just need to squeeze them and turn them, but for little kids, they can't get their hand around this tight enough, and it'll just spin.
Are you ready to go upstairs?
Very ready.
You're ready, huh? Ready for a nap, huh? Let's go for a nap. There we go. You ready for a night?
The bedroom is another place where potential hazards can hide. Babies can fall off the changing table, or they can suffocate in a crib full of too many blankets or stuffed toys. But a little common sense and foresight can make it a much safer place.
Probably one of the most common baby falls that we see are off of changing tables. And my best advice would be to not use one and change your baby on the floor. But if you do use one, and sometimes it's easier or you have back problems and you need to use one, there are safe ways to use a changing table. One is to make sure that your rail is up. You see that this one has a safety strap so that when you're changing your baby, you can use your strap and make sure that your baby's buckled in and secure. And unfortunately, a lot of parents don't want to take the time to do that. But even more important is to always keep contact with your baby. If you need to reach to get something, don't let go. or pick up your baby and take them with you rather than let go of your baby. The other thing, if you look at what's on the changing table, there aren't any small objects, pins laying around that the babies are going to get into as they start moving around. And so it's a well-designed changing table. Again, I'd rather see babies changed on the floor or just be real vigilant about keeping your hand on them all the time. First of all, you want to look at your crib design. You want to make sure that the space between the spindles on the rail and the headboard are no more than 2.5 inches.
Oh, really?
A real good measure of that is if you take a Coke can or a soda can, and if it doesn't fit through here, you've got a safe one because they're just about the right size.
Oh,
and so
okay,
you can do
and it
a
wouldn't
simple
fit,
test.
right? Oh, that is easy
So
then.
it's a real simple.
Ready to go night-night?
The other thing that's real important with little babies, newborns, is these side pads.
Bumper pads? Okay.
One of the hazards that we worry about is if your mattress doesn't fit against the edge of the rail or the edge of the headboard, that's a place where babies are going to migrate and they can get stuck. And so we need to be careful of that. The bumper pads protect them from both getting stuck here through the rails or getting stuck against the mattresses. And so that's real good. So you want to make sure your mattress fits really well. If it's got more than 1 inch, when you reach in here, it's too small of a mattress.
Okay.
And so this is a really well-fitted mattress.
Okay.
Also, be sure to buy age-appropriate toys. Babies learn by putting things in their mouths. If you have more than one child in the house, be sure to keep their toys separate.
For younger kids, we want to make sure that the toys are big enough that they can't be put in their mouth. One of the practical advices that I give is to take the toilet paper roll when it's empty, cut that in half. And if your toys can fit inside that toilet paper roll that's a half size now, it's too small to be around your young babies.
It's inevitable that kids will get into things, but with a little love and plenty of attention, your child can be safe and sound at home.
It's your job to make sure that your child's in a safe environment no matter where it is. And it gets a little more uncomfortable when they're going into someone else's home, but it's still your job.
If you'd like more information on tonight's topic, we can help. We've prepared a fact sheet full of useful information and resources, and it's free for the asking. Just call our Viewer Services Office at 297-7520. That number again, 297-7520.
And remember, when you call, be sure to leave us your full name and address so we can get your fact sheet in the mail right away.
That brings us to the close of this edition of Survival Kit. Next week, we'll be bringing you an encore presentation of our program all about raising teenagers. Kind of a nice bit of continuity there. That's just in case, of course, your kids are older and a fall from a high chair is the least of your worries.
And 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be here with an all-new program looking at food and health. We'll try to discover whether it's really true that you are what you eat.
I'm not going to discuss that. We hope that you will join us each week for Survival Kit.
Good night.
Stay tuned.